There is the assumption that atrial fibrillation happens in just senior citizens, but it doesn't. There are people in their 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s who have atrial fibrillation, and no one expects that people that age should have atrial fibrillation.
AFib hits anybody, retirees. It can hit young people just as well as old. I was aware of AFib about 10 years ago. My heart would be racing, I wouldn't feel good. Almost passing out, but not quite passing out. To the point where I wasn't comfortable driving, getting in the car, getting on the train to commute to work. It was very impactful in a negative way.
For a little kid, when they know something's wrong with their mom's heart, they think that that is a very threatening thing. And it's really hard to explain why you're going to all these doctors and hospital stays and different drugs and recovering from the procedure.
What is incredibly interesting about dealing with atrial fibrillation, that every single patient is unique. It affects patients in different manners. The treatment options available to them have to be very individualized. And while my practice sees a lot of AFib patients and really focuses on the AFib patient, no two patients are alike. So much has changed in the treatment of atrial fibrillation, even over the last few years. Things that were not available a decade ago are now widely available. So both in terms of a stroke reduction, in terms of controlling the heart rate, and especially in terms of controlling the rhythm of the heart, we have therapies available to us today that were unavailable even in the not too distant past.
Again, when you feel that shortness of breath or when you get tired easily, I mean, that could be anybody, I believe. And I don't know if it belongs to any certain age group or not. As I watched here today, you know, we had youth as well as we had myself at the age of 70.
For a period of years, kind of leading up to my diagnosis, I had noticed that if I was in a situation that made me a little bit nervous, I felt really anxious. I went for a physical and they observed an irregular heartbeat, asked me if I had a heart murmur. I had never been told that before, and I hadn't. So they took an EKG, and that was really the first time that I found out that I had it. And from there, they sent me to the emergency room. So I think, you know, atrial fibrillation could happen to anyone, and it still seems like it's a little bit unknown.
Our lab is working very hard to try to discover the mechanisms that underlie atrial fibrillation. And again, the reason for that is that atrial fibrillation, or AFib, is the most common rhythm disorder, sustained rhythm disorder, that affects people, and it's a major cause of stroke, and it's also associated strongly with heart failure.
And actually, when you hear that there's something going on with your heart or your partner's heart, for us, I think we both agree that that was a real fear there. When we went for his physical and found out through a EKG that he was an AFib, it was almost like a relief to me also. We were both very scared and worried. We had never even known what AFib was, but yet we were kind of grateful that there was a diagnosis made.
It's estimated that 1 in 4 of us will develop atrial fibrillation over our lifetime. So if it doesn't affect us, it is likely going to affect people that we know. We are in the midst of a revolution in the treatment of atrial fibrillation. Therapies are available to us today that were not available even a decade ago. And we all have the opportunity to be part of that revolution.